On this week's episode of the Vero Beach Social Media Pop-Up Podcast, we have Susan Adams, owner of Marsh Landing, president of the Fellsmere Frog Leg Festival, and current county commissioner. We talk all things marketing in the restaurant business, county politics, and frog legs, and we also bring up Florida State football. Give it a listen. You're going to love it. I guarantee it. All right, everybody, welcome to Salt Vero. I'm here with Susan Adams. I'm Curtis Carpenter. I just banged the table. Did you hear that?
I did.
I'm not going to do that again. So again, we are in the salt therapy room here. It is one of the coolest atmospheres for a podcast we've ever done. But Susan, owner of Marsh Landing, county commissioner, runs the Frog Leg Festival, in charge of it. How's that work?
This is my third year as president of the Frog Leg Festival.
Okay, so wearing a lot of hats. So Susan, why don't you introduce yourself? I think I already did it for you, but go ahead, tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll get rolling with this thing.
Sure. So I'm Susan Adams. Grew up in Fellsmere. My mom and I own and operate Marsh Landing Restaurant. I started out as a city council member for the city of Fellsmere, and currently I'm county commissioner for District 1, which covers the North County area of Indian River County. My mom and her friends, crazy as they are, started the Frog Leg Festival about 30 years ago. And like everything out in Fellsmere, it's kind of a community event, and a community affair with everything. So this is my turn, second generation taking it on. So I've been running that, like I said, for about 3 years now. But we have a great committee, so I certainly don't do it by myself.
No, that's great. So, of course, this podcast, we're going to talk a lot about marketing. That's the key. And we've got three things that I'd really like to talk about marketing with you, which is the Frog Leg Festival, Marsh Landing, and the County Commission. I'll let you decide what we want to talk about first. Shoot, what's, I guess, I know what I want to talk about first. I want to talk about Marsh Landing because it's such a cool story how you guys acquired it. So I'm not going to go any further. I already ruined your introduction. Why don't you tell us about Marsh Landing and how it came about? Sure.
So, Marsh Landing is housed in the Fellsmere Estates Corporation building, which was built in 1926. The city used it actually for a while. Let me back up. Originally, it was an office building for the Fellsmere Estates Corporation. It was a land sales office. And then
in 1926.
In 1926. And then when the land sales boom went bust, several years later, sugarcane moved into the area, and it became the offices for Fellsmere Crystals, which moved down south and became Florida Crystals, which is kind of cool. But then when sugarcane moved out of Fellsmere, the city used the building for city hall, for municipal space. It was actually housed the police department for a little bit. And cool story about that. The police department at the time only had one officer on duty at a time. So if they arrested somebody, they couldn't take them to the jail. So they had to house them in Fellsmere, and they didn't have a jail cell necessarily. So what they used was the safe in the restaurant. There was a safe there in the clerk's office, so they would actually hold the prisoners.
Wait a minute. They would put a person into the safe.
Correct.
Interesting.
It had like a front door and then a gated door, so it's not.
I mean, it's what happens if you forget the combo or something?
Right. So then when the next officer would come on duty, then they would transport whoever they had arrested down there because they couldn't leave town unsupervised. So
it's also a good time to rob a bank. Like, If you know that somebody's getting arrested, it's like, all right, let's go commit a crime.
There's only one officer. Let's go commit a crime. So the city used it for a while, and then it fell into disrepair. The city boarded it up, and when I was growing up, when we moved to Fellsmere in the early 80s, and my whole youth, all I can remember is the building being chained off, fenced off and boarded up. And it was like one of those buildings you would walk by really fast. You wouldn't go by on Halloween. It was really creepy. So the city decided that they were going to tear it down.
Okay.
And my mom and some of the other community leaders in Fellsmere decided that this was a really important building. It was a large building. It was kind of a cornerstone of the Broadway corridor. And the city shouldn't tear it down. At the very least, they should auction it off and set the minimum bid for what it would cost them to tear it down, so they wouldn't be losing any money.
Right.
So Mom went down to listen to the auction and see who was going to buy it. what they were going to do with it. And I remember I was in high school and she came home and we're like, ooh, who bought the building? You know, what are they going to do? It's so cool. She's like, well, I didn't like what anybody was going to do with it, so I bought it. I was like, well, what are we going to do with it? So it took her, she bought it in 96, and it took her several years to renovate it. Like I said, it had been boarded up for 30 years, so it was in complete disrepair.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
But the bones were there. It was still super cool. And so she opened the restaurant in 2002.
All right, so it took her about 6 years to get it up and going. Now, did she have restaurant experience? Had she run a restaurant before?
She had not herself run a restaurant, but she grew up, her family, my grandfather and grandmother owned a barbecue restaurant in North Carolina.
Okay.
So she'd grown up in the restaurant business.
Gotcha. Because I can't imagine, like, just buying a dilapidated building, renovating it, and saying, oh, okay, yeah, I'm going to go start a restaurant. I have zero restaurant experience. I would never be able to do that.
Yeah, well, and, you know, the funny thing is a lot of people think that the Frog Leg Festival grew out of Marsh Landing. But the truth is that Marsh Landing grew out of the Frog Leg Festival because the Frog Leg Festival had already been established at that point. So, and she had been running that and running the kitchen there. So she had some experience, and the thought was this was kind of a way to showcase what Fellsmere is all about all year round.
Gotcha. So that leads me to my next question. Marsh Landing is in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of Fellsmere. How, if you're going to Marsh Landing, like you're going there, it's not like you just happen to be passing in. It's like, oh, okay, I'm hungry. Maybe I'll go get some food. How did it gain its following? From the Frog Lake Festival?
That's part of it. Part of it was from the Frog Lake Festival. Part of it was people just being curious about Fellsmere and wanting to come out and see what Fellsmere was about. And now there was a destination they could go to. Part of it is the preservation of history that she had done. You know, we have so many old pictures on the walls and implements, and it's as much a museum as it is a restaurant.
It's a really cool place, by the way. I mean, obviously, we're trying to push Marsh Landing a little bit in this podcast, but without doing that, I mean, it is a super, super cool place if you've never been there.
Yeah, there's a lot to see there. I always tell people, you know, it's going to take a couple trips to see everything there is to see at Marsh Landing. But, you know, my mom is an amazing personality in and of herself. She's kind of a character, and she was just able to figure out something unique that was going to bring people out to experience. And over the years, I have to say, we rely a lot on word of mouth. We do some marketing. We probably should do a little bit more, but what you say is exactly right. Nobody just drives by Marsh Landing and thinks, oh, I'm hungry, I'm going to stop there.
Right.
You really have to think in the morning, I'm going to go to lunch at Marsh Landing, or I'm going to go to dinner or whatever.
Yeah, it's almost like your weekly dinner plan or whatever. It's like, all right, well, Monday tacos, or I guess Tuesday would be tacos, right? Monday burgers, Tuesday tacos, Wednesday Marsh Landing. Yeah.
Exactly. And then, you know, a couple years after we opened, we started the Bluegrass Jam, which kind of fit naturally with the country theme of the restaurant, and that really grew and brought a lot of people that hadn't experienced, you know, Fellsmere, the restaurant, because at the time bluegrass wasn't that popular. So finding a place to really go listen to it and participate and jam with the different musicians was a unique thing.
So what nights, because you guys do this bluegrass thing once a week, right? What nights do you have bluegrass music?
So we have bluegrass right now. We changed things around because of COVID, but right now we have bluegrass every Thursday night.
Okay, Thursday nights. All right, so if you're listening to this and you want to listen to bluegrass, go Thursday night to Marsh Landing.
Yeah, come on out. You can, if you're a bluegrass musician or somebody that likes to, you know, pick the guitar or whatnot, you can bring your instrument, you can play with the band, you can sing a song. It's funny, in season we have a lot of people that'll come down to visit, and they'll bring their banjos or their fiddles, and they'll play with the band, and that's really cool.
So it's just like an open mic type thing. Like, you got an instrument, you want to come play, come jam.
Yep, it's
Gotcha.
a open jam. So, you know, we have different core bands that play on different weeks, but there's always somebody there that can get up and play.
Gotcha. What other events do you have there? Do you have weekly things often, or is it just bluegrass on Thursdays?
Bluegrass is our big thing. And then, you know, throughout the year, we do different things. Around the holidays, we'll have, you know, some nature photographers that'll come and do like little shows. We've had the Highwayman, Ray McClendon, come and paint pictures at the restaurant and then show off, you know, his pictures and things like that. So we do different group kind of shows and things of that nature, but on a regular basis, bluegrass is really on Thursdays our big deal.
Gotcha. So I'm going to segue from now Marsh Landing into the Frog Leg Festival, which we talked a little bit about. When is it? It's the same time every year, right?
Yep. It always starts the third Thursday in January and runs Thursday through Sunday.
Okay.
This year will be our 31st year. So who knew that a Frog Leg Festival would last this long or would be as big of a deal as it is? And in fact, the Fellsmere Frog Leg Festival holds 2 Guinness World Records.
Oh.
We are the largest Frog Leg Festival in the world.
Okay.
Probably in the smallest town.
What's number 2? I want to know the number 2 largest Frog Leg Festival.
I think the number 2 is in Louisiana.
Okay, well, that would make sense. Yeah, gator tail and frog legs.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we also hold the world record for the most pounds of frog legs served in one day.
So what's that number?
So we served, when they came out, we served 5,000 pounds of frog legs.
5,000 pounds. That's a lot of frogs.
It's a lot of frogs.
Yeah, I mean, do you know how many? I mean, was that like 20,000 frogs or something?
Right? It ended up being about 10,000 dinners.
Okay.
In that day,
God.
which, to be honest with you, we usually serve about 5,000 pounds a year of frog legs over the course of 4 days. So to do it in one day,
yeah, that's wild.
it was a community effort, and they did a huge marketing campaign to get people to come out.
Yeah, and for those of you that have never been to this, it's at, what is that field, or what's it? Is it like just like the city park?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's at City Hall, but we call it the Old School Complex because
Okay.
City Hall is located in the original Fellsmere School.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of held in that whole ground, like by the Little League field. It's all kind of in the same area.
Yeah, and so, I mean, they're frying them right there. They're cooking them right there. And then you go up and you get your little styrofoam box, and it's got the frog legs or gator tail or whatever it is that you order. And you go sit down at the picnic table and eat, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
And if you've never had frog legs, they're actually like really good.
They are really good. I always tell everybody, well, my mom says chicken tastes like frog legs.
Okay.
But most people, frog legs taste like chicken.
Right.
And then over the years, we've had people that haven't really wanted to commit to the whole thing or a whole dinner because, frog legs, they look like frog legs.
Oh, yeah.
And so it can be a little intimidating to people. So a couple years ago, we added a menu item, and it's called a frog pop, which is basically like a frog leg on a stick.
And it looks a little less frog leggy.
Well, it's just, you only have to eat one instead of getting like a whole pound of them.
Right.
You don't have to commit as much.
It's like, you take that first bite and you're like, maybe I'm not that big of a chicken fan or a frog leg fan.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done. And then you wasted a pound. But if you get a frog pop,
Hey,
it's a
all about-
great appetizer for your pound of frog legs.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But the Frog Leg Festival, I don't know if you know, has a cool marketing story.
No, I want to hear it.
So the first year, the ladies decided that they wanted to raise money for youth recreation. The city didn't have a specific budget for that, and so but the city of Fellsmere has a lot of kids. It has a very young average age. So, what are we going to do? Blah, blah, blah. At the time, the Grant Seafood Festival was going on, and they're like, well, we can do our own kind of festival of some sort. We can do frog legs because that's what Fellsmere is known for. We have all these people that go out frog gigging and stuff. And they're like, well, what are we going to call it? The Fellsmere Frog Leg Festival? And the ladies are like, why not? It says exactly what we are. So everybody in town, brought over their fryers. They had put up a couple tents out in front of the old school, and they figured it was just going to be kind of a community event.
Right.
Well, like any good festival, they wanted to have a cool T-shirt. So they had some T-shirts made, and it was 3 frogs dancing in a frying pan. And they sent, at the time, Al Roker was on the Today Show, I believe. And
Makes sense.
he would wear these weird shirts that people would send to him while he did the weather. So they decided to send him a Frog Leg Festival shirt.
All right.
So they sent him the shirt, and he actually wore it.
Oh, man.
And started talking about the Fellsmere Frog Leg Festival.
Was this the first year?
This is the first year.
Oh, my God.
And this is also, I just want to make the caveat, this is before cell phones.
Okay, right.
So they get set up, and at this point it was only going to be 3 days. So they get set up on Friday night, and half of the committee decides to go to the movies because it was just Friday night. It was going to be a slow night. Nobody's coming. You don't have to worry about Saturday. But
This was 1990? Mm-hmm. So we're going to go watch like Days of Thunder or something.
Something like that. So the ladies go down to the movies, and the festival opened at 5. And so many people started pouring into Fellsmere that the Highway Patrol actually had to start directing traffic at I-95 and 512. Because at the time, it was only 512 was only 2 lane. It's still 2 lane coming into Fellsmere, but it was only 2 lane getting off of 95.
Right.
So all these people stopped pouring into Fellsmere, and at the time, all you could do was beep. There was only beepers. There wasn't cell phones. So mom's
911.
frantically beeping everybody, and they're in the movies and could care less.
Oh, man.
So long and short, they ran out of frog legs the first night. Like, they had 500 pounds. They figured that would last the whole weekend.
Yeah, it'll last the whole year.
They ran out. So they had to send all the guys in town, went out frog gigging to help get frogs. My mom sent me and my sister, and we weren't really old enough to drive, but she gave us the keys to the van and said, go,
This is an emergency situation. Yeah.
This is a list. Stop at everybody's house. If they have an airboat in the yard, stop and see if you can buy frog legs. Go to Miss Smith's house. She said she has 20 pounds. Go, to the other lady's house. She said she has 5 pounds, and just collect as many frog legs from around town as you can get. And every night they would run out, and every night the guys would go out frogging. And so it really started out as a whole town event, and it's just grown and grown and grown every year. And to the point where, we have people that come down from Ohio just to go to the festival. We have people that call us from Washington State because they collect the T-shirts, so we have to send them T-shirts every year. And it's been crazy. And it all started because they had a cool shirt that Al Roker wore on TV. I mean,
before Facebook, before Instagram, before Twitter, before any of that, Al Roker was the social media guy.
Was the social media guy. He made it go viral. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's actually before things went viral. That's awesome. I had no clue. I didn't know that story. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So actually, this will segue a little bit into the county commission. I didn't know that story. I've known you since 2016 when you ran for county commission the first time. And I remember you called, and at the time I was doing consulting, and you said, yeah, I could use your help. I want to run for county commission. I'm like, all right, where do you want to meet? And you said, well, I'm having a little committee meeting out at Marsh Landing. I don't think I'd ever been there before. And I'm like, where is this place? So I get all the way out there. I'm like, how the hell is this lady going to win a county commission race from out here in BFE? I mean, but just remember. Yeah. But I thought I'd heard all the Marsh Landing and Frog Lake stories, but Frog Lake Festival stories. But apparently I hadn't. I had no clue about the Roker thing. That is so cool.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Man.
We used to have, and you talk about how Fellsmere is so far away from everything. It really is. And so growing up, we used to have this event called Fellsmere Day, which was kind of like the birthday of the city, and it was a day everybody celebrated Fellsmere. And I remember they used to sell T-shirts that said, where the hell is Fellsmere?
Right.
And it would have Florida with a map and a little dot on it. And then they would sell license plates that said Fellsmere, where the West begins. So. Yeah,
well, it's where the West ends as far as I'm concerned. It is way out there. But, I say it's way out there, but it's really like getting further east as population starts moving out west. It's getting closer and closer to what I would call civilization.
Oh yeah. It's not the Western Front anymore, really.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of like town now.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that, county commission, you ran unopposed in 2020. Mm-hmm. Your seat's up in 2024. What's the plan? I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot here, but or maybe there is no plan yet. I don't know. But
well, 2024 is a long way away. So I really haven't thought about that, but I do have a lot of things that I'm working on that I would like to see accomplished and bring to fruition. So we'll see what the next couple years brings. But it's been awesome, and I have the unique situation where I kind of knew what I was getting into a little bit because my mom had been a county commissioner when I was growing up, which she was actually county commissioner when she opened Marsh Landing, which was interesting. But so it's been a lot of fun. I've been able to meet really cool people and do really cool things. So I've been very lucky to be able to be there for what's been 5-6 years now.
So what, and I'm veering way off the marketing topic now, we're on county stuff. What is the biggest issue right now in Indian River County, like the state of the county? What are you guys hard pressed on right now?
I think one of the biggest issues facing the county right now is just the blossoming growth that we're seeing.
Yeah.
COVID really let people understand that they don't necessarily have to live where they work. You can do a lot more remote work now, remote school. I think it made people think their priorities. So you have a lot of people retiring earlier. You have a lot of people that just want to move out of the hustle and bustle to a smaller kind of feeling of a town. And I know, a lot of us don't necessarily think of, well, I'm from Fellsmere, so Vero Beach and Sebastian are the big city to me. But
we're going downtown Vero. That's a big trip.
I know, it's like, but a lot of people are looking for that kind of thing. So in everything that comes with growth, the impacts to roads, the impacts to water and sewer capacity. I always laugh. I'm like, people think that being a local elected official is super cool and fun, or I don't know. I assume that they think that. They probably don't. But
I mean, I certainly don't think that, but maybe the general public does, and maybe I'm jaded. But
really,
I definitely don't think it's fun. So
it has its days and its moments. But one of the things we deal the most with is infrastructure, which isn't like cool and sexy. It's, It's how things are plumbed and piped and the bones of the community. So every new person kind of taxes that structure.
Right.
So just working through those things. But then personally, I've been working a lot on this broadband issue, the issue of lack of access to high-speed internet or
I actually saw that survey. I took it earlier this week, maybe, or last week. Yeah. So tell the listeners if they want to. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Explain the survey and then explain where they can take it.
Sure. So the county is going through a feasibility study right now to figure out where we have low levels of service, where we have gaps in service, where we have no service and no internet available. So part of that is doing a survey of residents and businesses. So I encourage everyone to fill out the survey online. You can go to www.ircgov.com. It takes only about 5 minutes. It's a great resource, and it has a speed test built into it. So we can, if you don't, because like me, I know enough to be dangerous about my own internet service. So some of the questions, it'll answer them for you. It runs a test and that kind of thing. But if you don't have access to internet, you can also fill out a paper survey that's available at most county facilities, the libraries, the IG Center, the City of Sebastian at their City Hall. And then we'll take all that information, figure out where the gaps are, and then start working with our broadband and internet partners to bring internet and better internet to different areas of the community.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty fortunate. My house is in a, pretty dense, I guess, for lack of better terms, area. So I have great internet. Our office has great internet. But I mean, it really is becoming the water and food and air quality necessity in 2021, where if you don't have internet, I mean, you're not able to really survive anymore. I mean, it sounds crazy. I can't even believe I'm saying those words. But I mean, if you don't have internet, how are you functioning in today's world?
I kind of think about back to, like the turn of the century, where if you didn't have phone, it became a point where you couldn't operate, or if you didn't have electric, and this is just as much a utility as anything else. So what we're seeing is, in our more rural areas, some of our agribusinesses can't expand because they don't have access, so they can't do the shipping and the global market that they're working in. But even in Vero, we have businesses on US 1 that don't have enough capacity to expand their systems or upgrade their POS systems or upgrade their security cameras. And then with COVID, you had a lot of people trying to work, do school, live stream, do all sorts of stuff. So the bandwidth within the households, it might be okay to watch Netflix. If you're trying to watch Netflix, but your kid's trying to do virtual school and your husband's trying to work from home, and you just didn't have enough to do it all.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how many devices actually connect to your Wi-Fi router. So, yeah, I mean, we have light bulbs in my house that connect to my Wi-Fi. I have like 47 things. It used to be dial-up. You plug it in, you plug in the phone line to your computer, and you've got one device that's going at 56 kilobytes per second, and that's how you ran it. Now, yeah, I mean, everything is run on internet and Wi-Fi, and you're right. Every device that you hook up will split your broadband. and again, if you just, if you're getting a satellite internet feed or something like that out in Fellsmere, I mean, you're limited. You have a maximum capacity of how much you can actually upload or download in a given
Right.
month. And yeah, I could see that being a major, major problem.
So that's my current project, and it feeds into the quality of life, but also into economic development. So there's so many aspects that broadband hits, and the good thing is the state is really shining some light on this as well and providing funding for different broadband expansion programs, and then the federal government is as well. So the timing is right. So everybody, please fill out your surveys. Let us know where we need service, where we have service, where we have inadequate service.
It's ircgov.com.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Cool.
Help us help you.
All right, cool. Well, again, I wanted to touch Frog Lake Festival. I wanted to touch Marsh Landing. I wanted to touch County Commission. And you didn't really answer my 2024 question, so we'll leave that there. And yeah, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up or talk about, or?
Well, first I have to say that this is the coolest podcast I've been on because of this whole salt wall situation going on.
I've never been so relaxed during a podcast.
know.
Like I if you weren't so interesting, and I'm not blowing your skirt here, but if you weren't so interesting, I could totally fall asleep here.
I know. I think we should make it last a little longer just so we can hang out in here.
Well, I mean, we can turn the record off. And
Right.
But, this place is great.
No, this is awesome.
Yeah,
everybody have to come out and check out Salt. It's fabulous.
Yeah, if you've never been, it's beachside. This is Ocean Drive here.
Mm-hmm.
We're next to Nino's. Is this Humiston Plaza? Sexton Plaza? I always get the two confused.
Humiston.
Humiston Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Fellsmere chick has to tell the Vero guy where we are right now. But yeah, we're right next to Nino's, Ocean Drive. This place is awesome. They have like 3 or 4 of these rooms.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it in here because we have all this camera equipment and stuff and microphones and all that. But they like shoot powdered salt out while you're sitting in here, and I mean, it's supposed to be good for
therapy.
you.
It's supposed to be very good. Good for anxiety and stress. So I'm thoroughly
So we're
enjoying
definitely
this.
hanging out here. Yeah.
And I did see that they do yoga in these rooms too, which
Sweet.
sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm not a big yoga guy, as you can see, but but I am down for like some less stress and more relaxation. So
There you go.
yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. No.
All right. Well, is that it? Are we done?
I don't know. I mean, we can talk
Andy,
about
what do you
anything
got?
all the time.
Well, I would say, I'd be interested to know, like, what your thoughts are on when you said you first started advertising, there was no internet and stuff. How do you see how that's impacted and how that's changed?
Oh,
Look at
that's a
Andy.
good question,
I mean,
Andy.
Andy sets up all the cameras and everything, and he's kind of like the guy in the background. But a couple of these podcasts, he's brought up some good points. We need to throw a mic on him next time.
I think we should.
Well, I can connect. We'll talk later.
He's over there relaxed
Yeah.
because of the salt.
That's right.
His mind's working
Straight
better.
chilling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when we started the restaurant, we did a lot of print advertising. Print was king, newspapers, everybody got their information there. You really didn't have social media. Radio starting out was something that was a little bit out of our reach from the expense side. So we just really did a lot of what most small businesses do when they start: mailers, coupons,
Right.
things of that nature, word of mouth. And then as times changed and efficiencies of marketing, and also I think you get to a point in a business where you realize I really need to spend the money on marketing. I think for a startup business, it's hard to understand that's an expense you need because you're so busy just trying to make money and pay your bills. But it's one of those investments for us at this point. It's just as much an investment that we make in marketing as we make in new equipment, as we make into training, because it adds to your bottom line. And then over the years, as it's changed, we do a lot more social media marketing. Really, for us, that's the best way to target our our customer base. We can pinpoint, who our customer is, because my customer at Marsh Landing is going to be a little bit different than a customer at Captain Hiram's or
Sure.
a customer at 14 Bones or something like that. Even though we're all restaurants, we all have different feels, so we have different customers that we're drawing from. So being able to target that through social media has really been a benefit because you can control that narrative a little bit more and you can tell more of your story. And what we found for Marsh Landing is people want to be invested. They want to know our story because it's a unique story.
Yeah.
So the more we can kind of tell them and make them feel a part of that and have them come experience that, the more likely they are going to make that longer trip. You know, one of the things that always amazes me about Marsh Landing is we have a lot of local customers. We have our coffee club that's there every day and that kind of thing. But we get a lot of people that travel, 1 to 2 hours just to come to Marsh Landing, whether it's because of the unique food offerings or because of the atmosphere or because of where we're located makes a nice scenic drive. So just being able to identify that. And then we still do a lot of radio and that type of thing. But social media and those different avenues, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Instagram is huge for food right now. People like the pictures. Yeah. But really, Facebook is kind of your bread and butter, where you build everything else off of.
Well, yeah, in this area, you're going to find that Facebook is where everybody lives, and then for a restaurant, a boutique, something like that, something that's sexy, that's aesthetically pleasing, Instagram is going to be number 1A or 1B or maybe a close number 2. But yeah, I mean, as a restaurant, that Instagram's going to be where you show this stuff off.
Right.
And what's kind of interesting too, and I'm not sure if you are even aware, but you can advertise. You can target people that are in your general vicinity that are away from their hometown. So again, if you want to make this a destination, you can advertise to those people and say, hey, come check out Marsh Landing. We're an old Florida restaurant and we have gator tail and we have frog legs.
That's exactly right. And that's why you're the guru on this stuff, Curtis. See?
Yeah. I'm just trying to give you a little tip, a little trick.
No, yeah. I love it. What's going to be really interesting is to see what the next thing in social media is. Instagram was cool, and it still is because I'm a dork. I love to see all the pictures myself. But then you have TikTok. A lot of people are figuring out ways to use TikTok to market businesses. We don't necessarily do that because I'm too old. Well, to be honest, now, I'm not that cool. But
today, TikTok is king in that 13 to 26-year-old market, and that's probably not where you guys really live, and that's fine. But over time, I mean, Instagram used to be that 13 to 24-year-old market, and now I see my mother, I won't even tell her age because she'll kill me, but she's on Instagram. Right. She just requested to follow me yesterday. I'm like, what are you doing on Instagram? But yeah, so I mean, that's usually how the trend works. The young people get on, and then the generations behind them, and then behind them, and then behind them get on, and then the young people are like, well, I don't want to be here anymore. If grandma's on here, I don't want to be on here. Right. So now I'm getting something new. So now we're starting to see a trend of 30s and 40-year-olds getting on TikTok. So that's going to be, that's going to grow a little bit. And then, like you said, what's the next thing?
Right.
I don't know what it is. If I knew, I mean, I'd start investing.
Right. If any of us knew, we would be sitting in a salt room, not necessarily in
attached
Vero.
to my living room.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, but it is cool to see how everything has just moved forward in marketing and the different avenues and venues. And, the funny thing is like I said, we started out with print because print was king, but now really you don't do that much print because it's more static. So you can't tell your story. You can't change that message as fast. And you use that more for specific functions versus overall marketing
two issues that I found with print is one, once it's printed, like you said, it's static, it's there. If you put the wrong phone number on there, sorry, it ran for the day, the week, the month, the quarter, the year, however long that publication is in circulation. The other thing is the cost of print has not gone down, but the cost of digital advertising is a fraction of a print is. So it's backwards economics. I don't quite understand why, but yeah, I mean, to put a full page ad in the newspaper is thousands of dollars for one day. You could spend that over 2 months of social media advertising and get way more bang for your buck. So I'm not trying to shit on print, but I'm shitting on print. It's not great.
Think the goal is always to add layers to your marketing plan and have one thing build on the other. So you can do that and get exponentially more exposure through social media advertising than you can through print. Because yes, print is going to go into somebody's mailbox or to somebody's home and just sit there.
Right.
And then they have to interact with it. Versus social media, you're interacting. It's more the opposite. I'm interacting with you versus you interacting.
Well, you can have a bilateral conversation too with somebody on social media, whereas it's hard to do that with print.
Right.
Give that to somebody and they have to take it, and then you're hoping, that they make an action on that.
Right.
Anyhow,
So.
look at Andy coming up with. I mean, that's like 10 minutes of conversation.
Well, you guys just gave me gold. Man.
Oh man! So we're gonna scrap the first like half an hour of this, and we're only gonna run that last 10 minutes.
We're just going to put Andy in charge of the questions from
Yeah.
now on.
I just
Hell
have an
yeah.
extra add-on question because I used to be in the restaurant business, and that business, as you know, is customer service. People can complain right there face to face. Has that helped you be able to respond to those issues online? Do you think that's empowered you to sort of
That's a great question too. So, my view on people's ability to do post reviews, and it started kind of with TripAdvisor, and now it's gone, Facebook, you can do reviews straight on Facebook and Yelp and that kind of stuff. But it's helpful to be able to address those concerns immediately, but at the same time, because people have the venue to complain or post things, sometimes it's like, well, you were here at the restaurant when this situation happened, but you didn't convey that to me when I could fix it. And the
Right.
goal for most business owners is to fix the problem when it happens.
Right.
I don't want anybody to leave unhappy. Like, I never want them to have a bad experience. I also understand that sometimes you just can't make everybody happy because the expectations are just either really built up or they're different than what the reality
Well,
is.
and some
or they
people
haven't.
just like to complain.
And then you have some
Yeah.
people that just like to complain. So it's going to happen. So I think that the ability to review and social media in that aspect is kind of a double-edged sword. We can address it, and we can post our response where people can see it. Other people can see it, but it does allow people to kind of have that, I'm now more of an anonymous person, so I can say some nastier things than I might say in
Sure.
person. But I will say, our philosophy at Marsh Landing is we don't necessarily respond to every single review that we get, but we do respond to the ones that we feel we need to kind of help tell our story, or there's an issue that we need to respond to because it was handled and now the person is still complaining, or it wasn't handled but we weren't aware of it, and very sorry, that's totally outside of our norm, and we want to make sure you understand that this is not something that we are okay with, and we're going to talk to our staff and make sure these things don't happen. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. So it does, I think, give business owners a venue to do that when you wouldn't normally have had that in the past. But sometimes it is a little bit of a double-edged sword, but
It almost seems
it always
like
is.
if it's somebody that just says this food sucked, that's not really worth. It is what it is. But if somebody has a very specific bad experience, then at that point, like you said, you can try to address it, and like you said, maybe be a little proactive for the next time.
And I think as much as anything, I want other because a lot of people, especially for us, we get a lot of visitors to the area that are coming to the restaurant. They're not necessarily Indian River County residents. They're tourists, for lack of a better word. And they look at those reviews to see, where am I going to go while I'm here, because I'm here for a finite amount of time and I want to make sure that my time is spent well and I'm enjoying myself. So they look through those reviews. So as much as I want to address the concerns of the customer, I also want to make sure that other people that are reading that know that we are responsive and that this is our mantra. And hospitality and Southern hospitality is something we take seriously. But I've seen, restaurants and businesses that will respond to every single thing, or they'll get into kind of I call it a review fight. They're
tit
back
for
and
tat.
forth, and I get it. Sometimes you really want to do that. You really want to say those things because you're just But I always find that if you sleep on it, 24 hours to respond, or
The
take
24-hour
a deep
rule,
breath.
I like that. Yep.
Yeah, then you can come back and kind of be a little bit more professional,
level-headed about it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Sometimes our anger gets the best of us across all boards.
You got any more questions?
I think I'm good, man.
This is great.
I'm just trying to get us to stay in this room longer.
Yeah.
I like that
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Good job, Andy.
we're gonna turn this thing off and just chill. So
I know.
We should put this in our office, just
The sand, the salt. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know if everybody can see, but one of the coolest things about this room is like the whole floor is covered in like salt. So it's almost like the beach ice/snow, but it's salt. It's like the coolest. I don't know how to describe it. It's really cool.
Yeah, it was fun setting all this up in here.
I can imagine.
Yeah, and it's gonna be fun cleaning up all the equipment with all the salt. But no, this place
Totally
is so
worth it.
freaking cool.
Yeah, love it.
Cool. All right.
Awesome.
Was that it?
I don't know. I mean, you know me.
I asked
will
that before,
continue
and it
to
was not
talk.
it. It was
I'll
not it.
talk about anything forever.
All
so.
right. What else we got? Florida State. Did you watch them
I
Sunday?
did.
Oh
How
my
amazing
gosh.
was that game?
I've never been so happy about a loss. In my
I
life.
know. I was
Yeah.
thinking, because I went into it thinking, oh, it's going to be another building year. We're
Yeah.
on this building decade.
Yep.
And
yeah,
then
building decade. That's a good way to put it.
they
Yeah.
totally like pulled, and there was a time in like that first half where it seemed like they were just kind of
Well, they were down 18, and I was like, oh, here we go. Old Florida State, where
And-
they get down 18, and then they lose by 40.
and you can see,
Yeah.
could see it on some of their faces that they had just started to give up. And I don't know what happened or who said what, but man, they pulled it out.
Heck
and
yeah.
I'm like you. I've never been so happy for a loss.
Yeah.
I didn't even care if it was like a wide right or wide left or whatever it ended up being.
It was frustrating when we made the 50-yarder and then missed the 37-yarder or whatever it was. It was like, come
know.
on. But,
I know.
But I'm just happy to see fight back in that team.
I am too. I'm thinking, maybe we're out of the building years phase. We're in the growth phase
Maybe.
now.
I'm happy we have two
Fingers
quarterbacks. I'm happy
crossed.
that our running game looks good. Offensive line could use some help. Defensive line looked great. Jermaine Johnson, this guy's a transfer from Georgia, and he was just tearing up the backfield. So
So I have
very
a question for you. How many TVs did you watch? Because I know you have like 7 TVs on your wall in the
I've
living
got
room.
4 TVs in my living room, and so Sunday the Dodgers and Florida State were playing at the same time, so I just had those on like the 2 big ones. But Saturday was a lot of fun because it was the first day of like real college football. We have 4 games going on at any given time, and this Sunday, well, this podcast will come out next week, so week 1 of the NFL starts the Sunday after. We're recording this on Thursday, whatever date this is, the 8th or 9th or something like that. So NFL actually starts tonight. So this Sunday, I'm so excited to have all the TVs on, NFL going on, baseball going on. It's going to be amazing. So
It's like
yeah.
your own little sports bar there.
Well, and that was how I explained it to my wife. I said, listen, I can go out to a sports bar and I can spend, money on dinner and drinks and probably not try to drive home or whatever. Or we could do this. I'm home. We have a 4-month-old, almost a 4-month-old. It's like I could just hang out here and bring my friends here, and then we're good. And it's a lot cheaper. So
your wife is a good woman.
she is a freaking saint. Yeah, she is the greatest person alive. And yeah, for her to put up with me is, I still can't figure out why she does it. But yeah. So anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. So Florida State, good. All right. Well, anything
And
else?
how
you
are
wanna
your
talk about?
Dodgers doing this year?
They have the second best record in the league.
Awesome.
They're trailing the Giants now by 2 games. They actually play. I don't know what time it is. It is 12:15. They play in an hour, so we got to bust out of here.
Okay. Our time in the salt room is limited. The
Well,
Dodgers
I
are
could
playing.
I could set my phone up. We could watch it right here.
That's
but
true.
but
The blue background would match.
Yeah, but yeah, Dodgers are doing well. But yeah, they may have to get in the playoffs as a wild card just because they're in the same division as the team with the best record in baseball. So frustrating,
Wow.
but so goes it. Yeah.
Well, keep watching. It's a long season.
We got about 25, 30 more games, and yeah, then the playoffs, and so end of October is when it all wraps up.
Okay.
Hopefully, you finish your season with a win. That's how it all
Always
goes
the
down.
goal.
Most teams, the last game of their season is with a loss. You don't want that. So
No.
yeah, all right.
Well, good. Go Dodgers.
Yeah, go Dodgers, go Florida State, go Marsh Landing, go County Commission, go Frog Lake Festival.
Frog Lake Festival.
Yeah, man, we could break this up into like 5 different podcasts, Andy.
Yeah.
We can do a commercial for Marsh Landing out of this.
Yeah.
There you go.
All right. Do you guys have a jingle or anything? Marsh Landing jingle?
No, we should come up
we gotta
with
work
one.
on that. We're gonna
We
work
should-
on a Marsh Landing jingle.
I feel like it's ripe for a jingle.
Something about frog legs, keep on hopping here to.
Oh, yo.
Andy's.
Oh,
Andy's just coming out with things
saying.
left and right
something about
here.
this room is just getting
Yeah,
my.
we're definitely gonna put this in the office. If Andy's gonna be this productive because of the salt, we are
Just getting
definitely
inspired
doing
with
this.
creativity.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
Oh, Lord.
I don't want to turn it off. I just don't want to hit stop. I've had so many opportunities to hit stop, and I'm not gonna do it.
We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going.
All right.
What would you tell other restaurateurs, right?
Make sure this is still recording.
Who are
We're still going.
hesitant to spend money on social media because they think it's not worth the money because they think, you know what, I'd rather put coupons out there and I can see the coupons coming back Which one do you think is better and why?
Yeah, no, that's a great question because we used to do coupons and we don't anymore. And one of the things that we found was when we were doing coupons, people were coming specifically for that, but it wasn't, they weren't coming again because they would just go somewhere else where they had another coupon. So you weren't seeing the repeat business. Whereas with social media, you really start getting people to engage on your page. You can see that people are engaging multiple times. Then you start recognizing them when they come in, and you're really building more of a following for people that you'll have repeat business, and then they become your advocates, and now they're telling their friends about you, and it just starts kind of growing like tendrils. Versus a coupon, that's a one hit. And then they're done. So what I would say is really, what is it you're trying to accomplish? Do you just want to get a body in a door and not see them again? Or do you want to build a relationship with your customer that then you can cultivate year in and year out and really use them to grow more of your base? But just like with anything else in marketing, you have to understand that there is going to be an expense, and you might not be able to connect that specific expense to your bottom line. Like I know if I spend X amount of dollars on frog legs and then I sell X amount of dinners, I'm going to make Y amount of dollars. You can't really do that as well with your marketing investment, but you just have to understand, what would I have if I didn't invest these dollars here? Would my name be as well known? Would my reach be as far? Would I be bringing people from Stewart to Fellsmere to have frog legs if I wasn't marketing? Or would I only be constrained with, my Fellsmere residents? So, it is a gamble. And for my mom, it was really hard for me at first to sell her on the fact that we need to be investing more in marketing, because she's one of those people that I want to be able to plug it into a formula and know that I've spent this much, my plate cost is this much, I've sold this much, so I've made this much.
Yeah, we have that issue all the time with potential clients. Usually once we sign somebody, it makes sense, but to get them on the hook, they're like, well, all right, I want to know what my return on investment's going to be. And a lot of times we talk about lifetime value. I mean, exactly what you're bringing up. How many times can I get somebody to be a repeat customer? John Taffer, do you know who he is? He was a bar rescue guy. He had a great story, and I won't really get into it, but he basically said if somebody shows up to your restaurant one time, the likelihood of them to show up a second time is like 40%.
Right.
And then the second to the third time is still only like 42%. But the second to the third time is like 70% chance or something like that.
Right.
Where it's like, if you can get them to come in the door 3 times, you're golden.
Right.
And so, yeah, what's my return on investment to get them in the first time? What is it the second time? What is it the third time? And so he came up with this analogy or this story where basically if they show up the first time, I forget what it was. Somehow you got them in the door. You gave them a free meal or something. All right? So they show up, and then you give them a red napkin. So you know it's their first time. Then as the manager or the owner, you can come in, talk to them. Hey, welcome. I see it's your first time here. You got to try our chicken. Here's a free chicken meal, right? So what's that cost you? $3, All right, so you get them in the second time, and then once they have that, that because they have the chicken coupon, it's their second time. Then the third time would be like, all right, well, you got to try a dessert. And then after the dessert comes, once you've got them in there 3 times, they're just going to keep showing up. So how can I get that person in there 3 times is the goal.
How do I get them to create or to put me as part of their routine?
Right.
And that's really what it is. So how much repetition does it take for me to become a habit for them? And a coupon or just touching them with print isn't going to get you there.
Right.
They need to see you over and over and over again. And the way that happens the best, at least the most efficiently for us, is through social media.
Yep.
Through, for us in this area, like you were saying, Facebook.
Yeah.
I can touch them, 4 or 5 times versus an investment in a coupon or a mailer is only going to touch them once.
Yeah. Nope, that's music to our ears.
Wow. This is gold content.
All right. Cool.
We might have to have you on again.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a Salt Room podcast, I'll be here.
2024, when she runs for re-election, we're gonna have her on again. You see how I stuck that one in there?
I see what you did.
I'm trying. I'm really trying to get you to do that again. So
It has been fun.
Yeah.
Nothing's off the table.
all right, good. All right. Well, this has been the longest one. This is the Guinness World Record for longest pop-up podcast, 50 minutes. So.
Woo!
All right, so is that it? Andy, you gotta have more
I'm
questions.
golden, man. I don't want to keep having without a microphone. I mean,
I tell you what,
No,
Andy,
I-
you write all this gold down,
Yeah.
and I'll come back and we'll do it again.
Yeah.
as long as it's here,
I'm gonna
right?
put
Right, as long as it's
Andy
here.
behind the mic next time.
That's it. We'll do it. We'll do it.
All right, cool. Maybe I should have a podcast with Andy, just he and I. I'm talking about him.
I bet
actually
that
a
would
bad
be
idea.
cool. And I can run the
have
cameras.
have him ask all the questions, and then he answers them. And
I like
here
that.
like this.
And I'll run the cameras, so
There
no
you go.
guarantees that you'll actually be seen, but
We're
you
looking
know.
for an intern.
Yeah, well, yeah. Not that you don't have enough things on your plate. But yeah.
Hey, if you do cool spots like this,
Yeah, right.
I could
That's
intern.
right. Added benefit.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna turn this off now.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's really been a lot of fun. Andy, lovely as
My
always.
pleasure as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming in. Thank you to Salt for having
Yes,
us. We're
this
gonna
is
chill
awesome.
and watch the Dodger game here. Yeah, this was fun.
This fun.
was. I'm saying this very reactively, and I shouldn't, but this has been my favorite one. I think. I think this has been my favorite one.
This has been my favorite podcast too.
Sorry,
Oh.
episodes 1 through.
Well, this is like one of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you again, and
Thank
yeah, thanks. If you got through this far in the podcast,
You
Yeah.
guys are awesome
Yeah.
for
I mean,
sticking
guys are
how could
around.
they not?
yeah. Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. So, all right. Well, that's it. All right. I'm not
All right.
going to threaten again. Bye, guys. Thanks.